Welcome back to the show that today features a matchup of such extraordinary talent, I'm sure it's going to be enjoyed by humans, superhumans, humans who dress as bats, talking owls, and of course, light beer swilling robots. Yep, it's a vigorous vault into two vivacious visual visionaries whose films have run the gamut from victorious to vexing.
How, in the name of Zeus's butthole?
Sure, we've had directorial matchups before, but not even the might of a Christopher Nolan or the box office success of a James Cameron could compete with the sheer amount of times you've seen these two monikers trending on social media. Zack Snyder and Michael Bay. The mere mention of Bay or Snyder in a public forum of any kind could spark such a backlash it would feel akin to breaking into a maximum security prison. Well then consider me Stanley Goodspeed, because we're gonna find out who has the chops, the eye, the ability to do that super condescending director framing thing with their fingers the best. In one corner, it's the explosive action and slow-mo billowing clothes of Michael Bay. In the other, it's the elaborate cuts and attention to detail of Zack Snyder. A universe of hashtags await with bated breath as we determine the best instigator of internet idolatry of all time. Here's how we'll determine a winner. Round 1, box office. Round 2, Tomatometer / audience score. Round 3, iconic characters. Round 4, memorable moments. And then we'll do a wildcard round that shouldn't, but probably will, involve popular mom first names. Thankfully, there's no 4-hour cut of this show. I don't care. I don't get paid by the hour. Do I? Do I get paid at all? Well, honestly, I don't care. I'm just happy to praise Sucker Punch. Yes, really. I like the movie. Let's get it on.
Autobots, we charge together!
Spartans! What is your profession?
Round 1, box office. Unlike me, I'll tell you who does get paid. Movie studios. When these two fellas release a new talking picture, doesn't matter what the social media buzz is or how many secret cuts of a film might exist, audiences show up in droves to see a new Bay or Snyder picture. As any exec will tell you during their lunch at the Ivy, these flicks cost a pretty penny to make, but man are they worth it. Especially when they involve those transforming cyborgs. What are those things? Transformers! That's right. Michael Bay's most popular franchise, based on my favorite toys, not named He-Man, may have been some of his biggest hits, and boasts 3 films that crossed the $1 billion mark at the worldwide box office when we adjust for inflation. The ultimate breadwinner was Transformers Dark of the Moon, or T3 for short. Age of Extinction and Revenge of the Fallen also broke that seal, as did Michael Bay's 1998 scientifically accurate Armageddon.
What's up, Harry? Did NASA find oil on your anus, man?
All told, Bay is currently considered the 5th highest grossing director ever across the globe, as his films have done a total of $6.4 billion if we don't adjust for inflation. But if we did, I'm guessing it's higher. Dude's average per movie is a staggering $495 million over 14 movies. In fact, he's only ever had 2 films not gross at least $100 million on planet Earth: Pain and Gain and 13 Hours. Fun fact you'll hear me recite throughout this episode: I love 13 Hours. Love it.
That's what I'm telling you!
But now Zack Snyder's got something to say as one of the captains of the DCEU. Do we still call it the ship? Since his Man of Steel movie came out in 2013, he knows a thing or 9 about making some cheddar. He's been tantalizingly close to the $1 billion mark, falling just short when Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice earned $950 million in all countries. However, he's never had a film do less than $100 million at the adjusted global Cineplex. Sucker Punch just made the cut at $104 million. I'm responsible for $4 million of those dollars. His inaugural directorial effort, Dawn of the Dead, made $154 million, and then swoop in The Owls of Ga'Hoole at $165 million. Fun fact you'll hear me recite throughout this episode: I love Legends of the Guardians. Love it.
Come on! Yeah!
Unfortunately for Zack, not even the might of DC's greatest heroes can topple all of the Autobot, Decepticon, and Buzz Aldrin appearances from the Transformers franchise. Snyder's total haul over his career the world over is $3.1 billion, making for a stellar average of $396 million per flick. plus all those HBO Max subscriptions his cut of Justice League reeled in. The numbers tighten up when we consider just the domestic box office, as only $14 million separates Bay's $179 million per film average from Snyder's $165 million usual take. I say only $14 million because for these guys, that barely covers the cost of craft services for a week. Have you seen how much lobster Megatron can put away? Round 1 goes the way of Bay, a fella who has his own street named after him on the Paramount lot. The Transformers, Bad Boys, and 13 Hours franchises were just too much for Zack Snyder. Even though 13 Hours was just one movie, it's a franchise in my household. Bay won, Snyder zilch.
Actually, you're beautiful. You're wonderful. You're wonderful.
Round 2, Tomatometer / Audience Score. Remember all that cheddar the Transformers raked in to help Michael Bay win round 1? Yeah, that might be his Achilles heel in this round because critics aren't quite as favorable to them. But wait, hang on. The first Transformers live action movie is at a 58% on the Tomatometer. That's almost fresh.
That's cool.
Look out, Zack Snyder. Here comes Michael Bay and the... from there it was all downhill. Revenge of the Fallen didn't rebound and fell to 20%. Age of Extinction set the new low mark at 17%. And then Transformers The Last Night said, hold my product placement beer, and notched just 15%. Yikes.
Move, bitch, get out of my way. Move, bitch, get out of my way.
Okay, but Zack Snyder's had some smelly eggs laid too. Just ask, oh no, it's Sucker Punch. Despite my affinity for that fantastical Led Zeppelin music video sequence, it's his lowest moment on the Tomatometer, checking in at just 22%. Batman v Superman is also low at 28%, and Justice League, I'm hoping for 4-hour filet mignon from Mr. Snyder. Okay, we get it. Sometimes critics may not dig the art these guys have crafted. But come on, they've both made fresh films too, right? Michael Bay has The Rock, which welcomed him to Freshtown at 66%. See? And he also has... that's it.
What?
Pain and Gain flirted with ripeness but landed at 50%, and Bad Boys is at 42%. The door is wide open for Snyder and the Owls of God. They're rotten? The Owl movie is rotten? It's at 52%. Okay, but he does have Dawn of the Dead, 300 Abs, and Watchmen all safely on the pleasant side of fresh. And looking at these scores, Dawn of the Dead and it's 75%? Looks like Citizen Kane.
I like this song.
So while Zack's Tomatometer average is a respectable 50% to Mikey's predictable 37%, these dudes crank out movies for fans, just like the ones who weigh in on the audience score. Where we totally kinda redeem ourselves a little bit, both directors enjoy fresh averages here. Bay even has 3 films cracking 80% on the audience score metric. Transformers at 85%? Really? Okay, I'm just asking. The Rock at the same lofty number, 85%, and then 13 Hours at 82%. You're welcome. Zack Snyder takes the ultimate audience score prize with an 89% for 300. In fact, his only rotten output here is, regrettably once again, Sucker Punch. Am I just backing the wrong movies here? Is it me? Am I? On the strength of his early work like 300, Dawn of the Dead, and Watchmen, Zack Snyder's audience score average per film is a Bill and Ted excellent 69%. Michael Bay trails him by only 3 at 66%. But close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. And if you've ever seen a Bay or Snyder film, you know grenades very well. Zack Snyder wins the round, gets on the board, and ties it up at 1 apiece.
All right.
Round 3, iconic characters. Zack Snyder is feeling warm and could be piping hot after a round that rewards beloved all-time characters. The guy makes cinema with Batman, Wonder Woman, the definitely not mustached boy from Kansas. How can he lose in a round called iconic characters? Well, ever hear of Optimus Prime, Bumblebee, Iceberg? Oh wait, Iceberg was a G.I. Joe. Have we done that crossover? We should. Okay, but you get the point.
Not impressed.
So I think it's only fair to acknowledge the legacy of the characters that these dudes didn't create, but to weigh this round a tad heavier on the original heroes and villains they did give us. Michael Bay built up an impressive resume in the 1990s alone. He gave us the Bad Boys, Mike and Marcus, in 1995, and the chemistry exhibited by Will Smith and Martin Lawrence still rang true through last year's Bad Boys for Life, which Bay produced.
You can fight. Oh, you motherfucker, you can't fight.
And whether you need to break into, then out of a prison, or blow up an asteroid hurtling towards Earth, it was Michael Bay, who not only gave us great leads like Nicolas Cage's Stanley Goodspeed and Bruce Willis's Harry, which is ironically named for him.
Gee whiz.
We were blessed with memorable ensembles. Who didn't want a pep talk from Sean Connery's Mason, and who didn't well up when Liv Tyler's Grace didn't want to miss a thing? We may have not felt the same quite level of emotional attachment to early Zack Snyder characters like Baby Doll and Blue Jones, but if we rewind the clock back a tad earlier, Snyder can make us care about regular humans, especially when they're battling the scariest form of undead creature ever to roam Earth, mall zombies. Sarah Polley is perfect as Anna, as is Ving Rhames as Kenneth. And I'll go ahead and say that Leonidas and Xerxes were at least based on the mythology of real human beings, and what 300 may lack in character development, it more than made up for with ab roller sales, which has to count for something. But as we've seen evidence of already today, these gents do their best deep diving of character creation when it comes to humongous properties we've already been familiar with for decades. For Michael Bay, however, it came at a human cost. Does anyone root for people in the Transformers movies? Like, I get the first one was cool, and back then we might have been somewhat engaged in the fate of Michaela Barnes, Sam Witwicky, and Witwicky's parents' house. But the gripe I most often hear about that franchise is that we just want to see the cyborgs duke it out and leave humanity on the sidelines. So yes, I did care about Optimus Prime deeply, and I cheered heartily against Megatron, even though I do love him as a villain. I can chalk much of that up to my childhood bias walking into the theater, but once I sat down and finished my second batch of large corn, I really didn't find too many of the newer robotic roles all that interesting or necessary. In the case of Revenge of the Fallen, some of the Transformers were just downright offensive. Meanwhile, Zack Snyder appeared to have an easy task on his hands as he entered the fray of comic book film adaptations. After all, who wouldn't want to give a rip about Superman, Batman, or the dawn of Wonder Woman? He already proved that his characters would remain faithful to their hand-drawn roots with his Watchmen. Carla Gugino's Sally Jupiter and Jackie Earle Haley's Rorschach are just two of the fully fleshed-out performances we see. Is it as good as the HBO series? No. But fans continue to pine for more of his take on Man of Steel, as Henry Cavill's Superman brought a true human emotional spectrum to the alien from that planet that blew up. I'm so sorry. I should be more sensitive to Clark and his home world of Melmac. Similarly, Amy Adams as Lois Lane is far from just a damsel in distress. She's an intrepid reporter that can throttle a plot forward from the far ends of the earth, or if she's just chilling in the bathtub, having one of those "we need to talk about us" chats. Do I have an issue with characters being named Martha? Not necessarily, although I was not a fan of the execution of a certain scene involving their names being dropped, but that's not this round. Batman v Superman brought another level of depth to Kal-El and showcased a side of Bruce Wayne. You want to hint his secret alter ego? It's in the title of the movie that hadn't been previously explored on the big screen. His shepherding of his own planet. Ben Affleck stepped into the very hard-to-pee-in Batsuit, and we met a hero who was no longer just Gotham's protector, he was Earth's Avenger. Oh no, do I get fined for cross-universe penalty? Michael Bay has given himself more opportunities over a longer career to develop characters we truly care about. But for every home run like the Soldiers of 13 Hours, he also has strikeouts like Pain and Gain. It might be a sort of ridiculous true story, but I've seen that flick several times, and I still can't figure out, are we supposed to laugh, cry, root for someone, or just sit back and watch it like Tiger King? Remember Tiger King? Even by inheriting characters we've already been fans of for decades, Zack Snyder introduced us to a new depth with them. It's not an easy task after all this time, and when someone can pull it off, it bonds our attachment with them even tighter. Plus, the guy made me cry multiple times watching talking owls solve problems. Go watch Ga'Hoole and demand the 4-hour cut of that movie. Zack Snyder wins the round and takes a 2-1 lead over Michael Bay.
This is Sparta!
Round 4, memorable moments. Say what you want about this frenzied, action-loving pair, but one could argue there isn't a two-director set that have given us more thrills over the last 30 years. Michael Bay's work in the 1990s alone certified him as one of the most bankable action directors on the market, largely because he seemed to possess every tool in the kit. He could make us laugh and shudder with an opening sequence like the Klan rally in Bad Boys 2, or he could well us up with emotion when Bruce Willis does the old switcheroo on Ben Affleck in Armageddon. But perhaps his best quality is wedging a car chase into any page of a script he wants just because he feels like it. Witness The Rock. Did we need to wreck all of San Francisco for what amounts to a largely meaningless sequence? Yes. Yes, we did.
Okay.
Zack Snyder eschewed car chases for full movies that felt like one long, memorable moment, like the epic battle sequences in 300 or the lush, music-driven fantasy sets in Sucker Punch. That flick should have won every MTV Movie Award category that year. His action acumen runs so deep it bleeds into horror territory as we see that mesmerizing overhead shot of the zombie horde in Dawn of the Dead. And one could be forgiven in assuming his Watchmen or DC movies are just fever dreams brought about by reading too many comics. Snyder famously makes every effort to stay loyal to the original panels. Michael Bay takes, a few more liberties in adapting the Transformers from their animated source material, but the results are just as satisfying as any time I got my toys out to play with them when I was a kid, or last week, or this morning. It could be the climactic battle in Mission City in the first film, Revenge of the Fallen's monstrous explosion near the pyramids, or all of Chicago feeling the brunt of Dark of the Moon. The full-on robot combat of each and every Transformers film makes all the wading through the human dreck worth it. Even you, Extinction, but barely. And call me a loser, you probably already have, but seeing Transformers battle during Arthurian times in the last night, that's high school history I can stay awake for. And I'm not going to penalize Zack Snyder for the Martha thing during the moment of truth and dawn of justice. It's true. Didn't buy it then, still don't buy it, probably never will. But I know there's a contingent of rational folks who do. I've heard your impassioned arguments. It just didn't cut the mustard for moi. But I will give mucho points for the action surrounding that mommy misfire. And directly after, Batman crashing in to save Martha. Not his mom, she was already the other one. And knocking fools out is flawless execution in the world of filmmaking. In the literal sense of the word, them baddies were not surviving that night. My favorite all-time Snyder moment is shockingly not in the Owl movie. It's at the beginning of Batman v Superman, where Batman's alter ego discovers he's gonna have to v Superman. While every other sane person is running away from the Supes Zod battle at the end of Man of Steel, another great sequence by the way, Bruce Wayne comes charging towards it. In that one instance, we see what separates a hero from an ordinary citizen, and the realization that Ben Affleck had to drop all of his Dunkin' Donuts to run into the rubble ups the ante even more. All that being said, Michael Bay did the unthinkable with 13 Hours. I already knew Superman and Optimus Prime would deliver on amazing moments. I wasn't prepared for John Krasinski, the action star. It's a credit to his performance, sure, but also to Bay's ability to put his character, Jack Silva, in the right situations to maximize that potential. In one super tense car ride, John goes from being Jim, who likes Pam, to Jack frickin' Ryan. 13 Hours doesn't relent from there and provides gut-wrenching, heart-pounding thrills the likes of which only exist in the most finely crafted war cinema. It's moments like that where we remember why, after The Rock, Michael Bay could stand shoulder to shoulder with Tony Scott after Top Gun, John McTiernan after Die Hard, and Catherine Bigelow after Point Break. He simply gets action. And as much as we might roll our eyes at another billowing trench coat or lipstick sipping a Pepsi in an extra slow-mo, his movies have given our eyes, ears, and bodily functions as many memorable moments as anyone in the last 3 decades. Bay sneaks by Snyder in round 4, and we're all tied up at 2 apiece.
And now step back, and now it's next to Miss Nose. Now, hey, dude, you gotta learn the words. We usually only do the chorus.
And now it's time for the Wildcard Round, the Highlander conundrum. Let me explain myself. No, neither one of these guys have directed a Highlander film. Yet. But we would all bust blocks lining up to see that movie if they did, right? So instead of making this deciding round about owls versus Autobots, I have the owls there, or Harry Stamper's drilling team versus Superman, y'all gonna be missing a whole lot of things after that loss, Bruno. I decided to postulate the dilemma of, to quote Highlander, there can be only one. So let's say I take you to a movie theater. You're welcome, it's fun to hang with celebrities, and give you a few bucks for a ticket and some popcorn, and now you have 2 options. Walk into the house showing a new Michael Bay flick, or head into the next showtime for Zack Snyder's latest effort. You have no idea what the movies are, or who is starring in them, or how long they'll last. You go in blind with only one director to trust. And that director would be? I can make a great case for Zack Snyder because chances are you're seeing a film that covers some sort of territory with which you're familiar. Could be another DC property, another Watchmen epic, or fingers crossed, another adventure with talking owls. Or maybe it's that Revolutionary War period piece filmed 300 style that he hinted at making years ago. But here's what you can bank on for certain: an all-immersive cinematic feast for every one of your senses. Visuals you never thought possible set to perfectly balanced music with at least a dash of emotional investment. I don't really care if I get more flying creatures, famous superheroes, or zombies that would dominate at the NFL Combine. Whatever I get, I know it's worth the price of admission.
Isn't that right, Batman?
Michael Bay's movie is guaranteed to have action, and much of that action will be IMAX quality good times involving nutcase angles ranging from well below the sewer to the top of a Dinobot's head. I'm gonna be hoping against hope, wish against wish, that Bay fully commits to telling a story solely about humans battling for survival, think The Rock or 13 Hours. If it is another robot movie, just make it robots. Look, I want mindless action with just enough heart to keep me invested while my bladder screams at me for getting that XXL Sprite. But unfortunately for Michael Bay, the risk is just too great that cool explosions are all I get. I've been burned by too many great trailers for awful Transformers movies. Sure, they have tons of fun moments, but the constant repetition of those without anything to ground them to an emotional bedrock becomes tiresome. And unless it's Will and Martin and Joey Pants' painful attempt at a jump shot, I'm probably not giggling nearly as much as Michael Bay thinks I am.
Is playing finesse and subtlety in achieving a goal.
Conversely, with Zack Snyder, I know I may not like every moment, and some sequences may feel too long or unnecessary, but I know I get a film made by a director who ate, drank, slept, and breathed this material. He makes movies with his entire soul. Michael Bay can have a tendency to make me feel like he thinks I'm either here just for fiery car chases or to find out which six-pack to buy on the way home. Worse yet, he might assume I'm kind of stupid. Not that he'd be all that far off on that one, but I crave a director who sank everything they had into a project. That they did this for their very soul, not just a paycheck. Let's talk about them at their best. Michael Bay is arguably just as good and maybe a bit tighter of a filmmaker than the extravagance-leaning Zack Snyder. But even with the Snyder films that feature disappointing moments, weak characters, or felt too attached to the source material, I'm gonna get invested. I'm not gonna be wondering about what Michael Bay movie I'm missing next door. Actually, now that I think about it, let's screen their movies on opposite ends of the multiplex. I don't want to hear Shia screaming, "Optimus!" for the umpteenth time during Sucker Punch 3. Zack Snyder is my Highlander one. We're going to see his movie, and he wins the round. It's 3-2 Zack, which means Zack Snyder wins. Down goes Michael Bay. But in all fairness, I gotta give Bay his props. The Rock was so good. When a gaggle of me and my friends saw it opening night, we all broke our respective curfews to see it all the way to the end. It might be the greatest action film of the 90s and worth having my phone privileges taken away for 3 weeks. Transformers could be the most bankable franchise of the 2000s, and 13 Hours should have won every Oscar it was nominated for. Plus Best Picture. It's not a nutcase statement to say Bay's ceiling is as high, or maybe even higher, than Zack Snyder. But today, Zack Snyder won with his passion for storytelling and his commitment to see his singular vision through to the bitter end. But I'm just one man here. I'm no superhero. I was never even a lifeguard at the pool. I'm just a big movie fan. And now it's your turn. Let us know on social media whose library of excessive explosions and prime protagonists you prefer. I'm Mark Ellis, and I did my best. Sorry, Sean Connery, I'm not allowed to say the rest of that line.